Hi, I'm McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to just have a rapid fire relationship questions. Some of these were gathered from the comments of some of my videos. Some of them are from emails. Some of them I went over before, but I'd like to just go through some of these questions. And if you are watching this video and you have some questions, put it in the comments and maybe we'll get to it in another live stream just like this. But we got B on deck today, and we're going to start. I think there's 10 sets of 10 questions.
There are 10 questions.
And I went over briefly 5 questions in a prior live stream today, but I might touch back on those a little deeper with the side general over here, Mr. B. So why don't we start with the second half of the 5? What's the first question there?
So what's your view on guys needing or wanting traditional marriage and to have a family with kids?
I think if you're gonna have kids, then you should consider marriage. Do you have to get married and have kids? But I think if there's a reason to get married, it's probably associated with raising your kids, right? Mm-hmm. So does that mean you have to? Mm-hmm. No. But is it ideal? Probably. Mm-hmm. I mean, also depending on how religious you are, if that goes with your moral values of religion. And now, if you're going to get married with, no plan for kids or sharing assets and things like that, and you already have a little insecurity about your money being taken, which is a big one, or something like that, then don't get married.
Right.
Laffy Quince. I think it could be, but I still want any trick too. Because forgive better than hold on the hatred. Right on, Laffy. Right on, Sabina.
So don't be hateful. Don't have hatred.
I think it could be. Mm-hmm. But I still want any trick too. I don't know if you know what tricks are, Laffy Quince. English slang. Bottom line is, don't let anyone else impose their morals and values on you. If you want to get married, fine. Just know what you're getting into. There's a lot of people that have had bad divorces and bad marriages that are like, it's hell. Don't do it. I got cleaned out. I think if I had to give one piece of advice on marriage, I would say probably wait till your 30s. But that's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure,
especially like our parents' generation, I think everyone got married early.
I think things were different then. Right. I think that the morals and values were there for it. There was a lot more jobs that were set in place. People didn't change their jobs as much.
So back to environment, like you always say.
There's just a lot of distractions from how everyone wants to upgrade, dude. I've talked about that too. So, there's 15 iPhones for a reason, right? So they all do the same thing. They make calls and they do text, but really, right?
Oh, you're getting the newest.
Well, think about when I've talked to people that are in long-term relationships, right? That are in pretty good ones. They're still questioning, like, kind of like, they're not like going on, oh, it's so great to be married. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are wanting to play around, or they don't seem as devout as maybe the 1950s or 1960s, whatever. Mm-hmm. So marriage, like, you got to have your reason for being married beyond just, we're going to love each other till death do us part. But I've had clients that were married 20, 25 years and they were like, we got divorced after 20 years and the kids were raised and all that other stuff. Does that mean marriage is dead? I just think that, unfortunately, I've talked about this before, B. Maybe this isn't one you haven't heard me say before, besides the environment thing. All right. Is what's the alternative to marriage? Do you get my question?
Mm-hmm. Like to be in just a social contract?
Think about it this way. So you got boyfriend, girlfriend. Mm-hmm. What's in between that and marriage? Mm-hmm. You're stuck, right? Because you're like
engagement.
There's not a whole lot. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you kind of just have like, all right, and people, a lot of people like to go in steps, right? What's the next step? What's the move up? What's the next step? And when people are boyfriend, girlfriend for a long time, a lot of times they're like, well, the next step is marriage. And then the next step from marriage is what? Kids. And then mortgage. Right. And then, a nicer car. In America, it's like get a boat.
Leveling up.
Yeah, get a ski boat and get a trailer. Like there's plateaus or echelons or whatever you want to call them. And so I'm saying like someone's in a relate. Well, we should get married. Like that's what people do. So the question is, what if there was like an alternative? I've talked about the 4-year love pension.
Yeah.
A book that I've been meaning to write, but I brought this up on a live stream years back, and I was just like, you know, what if there was an alternative where you had a 4-year contract with a partner, with incentives, with everything on the, look at your face right now, with everything on the table, where you're just like, hey, you know, like a contract like sports would have. These are the things, and we can get out of it, and then we can see what happens. Rather, I mean, it's pretty heavy when you think about marriage, and you go to death do us part.
Right. Or like
it's pretty heavy.
We can renegotiate in a couple or 4
I mean,
years.
I just don't. I think a lot of things now, if you said for the rest of your life, it's hard for people to sign up for things like that now.
Especially now.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
That's the part that I'm not saying that when someone gets married that they're not all in or they don't love that person. I just think that with the amount of news and information you get, you change your mind more than you ever did before. You have more options than you ever did before, and it's not your fault. So someone was like, well, what do you mean? Like someone that's happily married with kids or says they're happily married with kids would say, you know, you can debate that. But there's not really another option in between for such a serious thing, right? Although I will say this, I have known people that have been engaged for like 5 years. They wear engagement rings, and they're like, yeah, we're just not going to do it. We're not ready, but we're engaged. I know people like that.
So that's just taking the next little step.
It is, right? Because they wear a ring.
Yeah.
It's more official.
Right.
I'm like, did you guys ever get married yet? No, we're not going to do it for tax reasons.
But we're wearing the rings, but
which is fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all. It's just my whole point of like, you got to do what's next, right? Because if you're like, oh, we've been 10 years boyfriend and girlfriend, well, if you never took that next step, it's kind of easier to bail out, right? I don't know. So what was the next question? We're doing relationship questions here.
All right, the next one we got, let's see. We matched on a dating app. When should I make the move to asking to talk on the phone or video chat?
Oh, so these are ones I got asked. Okay. This is one of those things that's kind of like, it's a little bit of an irritating question right now because there is no, do it in 5 minutes, do it in 10 minutes, because everyone's going, well, what's going to work? Well, I would have to see what you were texting each other. Does that make?
Yeah, it depends on the person you're talking to.
It's like, right? So what was the interaction? Was it friendly? Was it this? I would say, without pressing or being needy, I would say that you want to get a video call as soon as possible, but like I said, without pressing. But if they say no, it's fine. Like, it's not like you made a wrong move. There's all this stuff like do this, this, and this, and then if it doesn't work, then you have someone to blame. But the reality is, you should definitely get some kind of video chat or call before, especially as a female, to kind of get to know who so you don't get catfished.
Right.
But this idea of like, how long should it take? I would say that, you know, if you have a pleasant exchange and you have a little sense of humor there, it's like, you don't want to go, hey, can you talk right now? That might work, though, in some cases. If it's 8 p.m., it's a Friday night, exchanges are going good, maybe they're up for it. Right? But to have some set rule on this, I think you're kind of setting yourself back. Does that make sense, B?
Sure, but it should be, like I think you said, it should be fairly early on?
Yeah, I would say don't carry on for a long time, but
Because you kind of get in that,
I'm just saying, it's like, hey, man, first 10 minutes.
Right.
There's people that get that advice and then they're like, dude, I just do 10 minutes all the time. It's like, well.
So would you say like within the first few encounters that you have or you know, first few?
I would say, just know that it's not going to be a guarantee based on your exchange. It's probably going to be, you know, but yeah, it would be nice if, hey, you want to get a Zoom call in the next day or two?
Yeah.
This is one of those things I honestly don't do myself very often. So when I say it, I'm just giving you my opinion from the sidelines. That's the truth. A lot of people be like, oh, you just do this, this, and this. It's like, do you actually do that? Right? All right. Mr. Laffy Quinn says, how can we trust them again? Because that was the title.
Oh yeah.
What was that question?
Which one?
Is it possible to reconnect with?
Oh yeah. Okay, let me find that one. Is it possible to reconnect with a woman who broke your trust?
Absolutely. It just depends on. It depends on you. It depends on what they did, and it depends on if they apologized and you accepted it. Now, if they repeat the action over and over again, then it's going to be harder and harder. People forgive for different things for different reasons. So that's okay. My biggest thing is, do you believe them? Do you think it was out of character what they did? And if you can't forgive them, is that related to you? Or is that related to, a lot of times, like, they did this to me. It's like, you have a choice. Like, do you want to forgive them or not forgive them? Or is it going to just take you time? But it's going to be different for different people. So when you say, is it possible to reconnect with someone you trust or you lost trust? Absolutely. And you'll be absolutely astounded to see that if you lined up 20 people and had the same situation, they'd all have different answers.
Different views.
And if I did one thing to one person, there's certain people that if you don't wish them a happy birthday, they don't want to talk to you ever again in life. Because when they were a kid, that someone didn't come to their birthday party. So everyone has these relationships to it. You have to. Then that's why you have to get into touch with what happened. And is it something individually that you can deal with? If you keep bringing it up over and over again, fine. If you have it buried deep down inside, and every time they get a text message, you're thinking,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Or that's hard, and it's fair to you. So it's not one of those things like, oh, just let it go. Everyone has different. Like, I could let go of something very easily that you can't let go of.
Sure.
Right. So there you go, Laffy Quince.
This one kind of goes on kind of the first question that we did, but in today's dating landscape, specifically in Western societies, is it worth getting married? Do you think it's worth getting married now?
That's on the individual. So, for me to decide, that would be speaking for McCarthy. But I would say if you're gonna have kids, I think then that's the conversation to have, because
that's the big one. That's the big one. Kids.
Yeah, I think that I think it's better to have two parents. I think that's not very debatable.
Well, I think there's a lot of statistics even on that. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there's a lot, I think, evidence that shows if you're like a single, mother or father, then, it's a lot harder for the kid growing up. It works, in certain situations, it can be fine, but in general,
That being said, if you're really unhappy in your relationship or you have friction or problems, don't stay married just for the kid, because the kid will pick that up.
Absolutely.
So,
like you said, different situations for sure.
But marriage is something for you as an individual to decide on your own. Don't ask other people to tell you if it's okay for you, because they're just going to tell you what's okay for them. And they're going to base that on their own experiences. And don't talk to a divorced person.
Right, because they're going to be shaped by their experiences.
I've talked to people that were married for years, and some of them are like, don't get married. And they're married for 45 years, and you're like, seems good for you.
Yeah, 45.
I always say it's the love pension. It's like, you're probably going to have to go through some shit. It's a safer route. Maybe people don't like that term of hoping that you don't end up lonely. I mean, there's just no guarantees in relationships. You can marry someone and they pass away 20 years before you do, and you were all in. So the idea that marriage is some sort of guarantee, I think that's where people get it wrong. The idea that some people are like, oh, marriage is hard work, but it's worth it. And someone else was like, marriage is never hard work. It's all natural. It's like, I'd say you should complement each other. You should have similar morals and values. But even then, you're not guaranteed just because you took a vow, because things change, people change, and sometimes it's not even people's fault. Something happened in their life. There's a client of mine that had, their ex had like a freak car accident. And I don't even like to talk about it because it's like, that's a tough thing. It's totally freak thing.
Right.
How much did that affect their relationship? There's another one that the individual had a terminal illness that disenabled him from having sex. Right? Some people might be like laughing about it. I won't laugh about that. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like that's a tough thing that comes up in a marriage where you're like, whoa, didn't anticipate that.
Of course.
What's up, Justin Brown? Right now, I know the answer. Even things were worse before, but like I said, better to forgive than to hold on our hatred. Hatred's a strong thing. There's a thin line between love and hate. Someone just asked me that. Why do I hate my ex? I'm like, because you loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hate people you don't? It's hard to hate people you don't have some kind of feelings for.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you really have to, like, for me, it's, to have to hate somebody.
It's different, yeah.
Yeah. Hate's a strong word.
Yeah. I guess what came to mind being a basketball fan and stuff, there's some players I use the word hate, but I don't.
Like, oh, I hate them, but you don't.
But yeah.
It's not really.
And then when I
hate.
thought about it, it's like, it's not that strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that strong.
It's just like a word you throw around.
Some people,
Yeah.
Yeah. But for people to have strong feelings either way, you have to, there's a thin line between love and hate, sweet and sour.
And that swings too. Like if you really love somebody, you're, can go really far back the other way too.
I
right?
hate that you don't love me.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
All right, let's see. How do you get dates when you work crazy long hours and you spend most of the time on the computer by yourself?
Oh, okay. So I answered this earlier in the short live stream.
So you just don't have the time to go out and date. What do you do?
You just got to reassess your priorities because you're going to limit the pool of people that you can date easily. So if you want to make that your life and you want to be a workaholic, or you're working towards 2 years of, I'm going to have a millionaire business kind of a thing, which is the greatest storyline you can have on Instagram. I'm an entrepreneur.
You're going to have to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying that if you're going to put dating at the back of the bus and you're like, how do I do this? It's like, maybe just keep it off the bus for a little while then. But you're probably going to eliminate a lot of good candidates because they don't want to deal with that shit. Mm-hmm. But if you're that busy, then just focus on shorter relationships, one night stands, flings, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the other words are for it.
Whenever you have time, basically.
Casual encounters.
Yeah.
Then focus on those. But the idea that you're like, well, you're just what you're basically saying is work comes first. I work long hours. I don't have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is even if you pull someone into a relationship with you, eventually that'll get old for them. I've dated women
that were just unavailable.
Not unavailable, just had busy schedules. And it's like, especially when when you got school involved, like university and work. I had a girl that I dated for a while that was a waitress at a restaurant, and then went to school, and it was just like, it wasn't bad. Great girlfriend, great person. It's just like 11 o'clock at night all the time. It's tough. That's not something to blame on them, but it can affect the relationship. So my ex texted me this. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for talking with me earlier. I love you and I truly miss you. Always have a special place in my heart. I hope one day we can reconnect sometimes. And Justin was your response. Thank you too. Question is, what do you want? What happened, Justin? I don't know your story really. JB, what else is there? Those questions.
So after a few dates, I've had multiple women tell me I'm not boyfriend material. Why is this? You're
not boyfriend material for that individual. If it's happening with multiple women, what kind of women are you dating? And do you agree? Have you been a boyfriend before? If you were a boyfriend, were you good? So do you agree with the statement? And do you want to? I mean, I would have a bunch of questions for you. So if someone makes a negative comment about me, which I would say that was negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you're not
on the flip side. Maybe you're like, dude, I'm not boyfriend material because I like to play, or
right.
I have friends that are like, I don't want anything. Mm-hmm. They never have a monogamous relationship on their mind when they date. So
I'm not trying to lock that down,
Yeah. Nah. So I mean, they would look at it like, yep, true. Mm-hmm. So are you trying to be boyfriend material, but you're not? And what's the demographic of who you're dating? What are they looking for? And do you believe it to be true? It's like if someone said that to me on a date, I would consider the source. I'd consider who it was, and then I'd consider in what context. Okay, so Rye Flint says, Mac, you're not boyfriend material. I'd go, okay. I wouldn't go, why? Why don't you like me?
But if it's happened on your past 5 dates, the same thing happens.
I mean, what is it? Like, okay, so this is what's interesting. There's talked about this before. Fritz Perls, he's a famous Gestalt psychologist. He says that I kind of agree with this, that people love parts of people. So you don't love people completely. Like there's unconditional love, but I disagree a little bit because I do believe that there's unconditional love with family members, things like that. Like, and it can be your partner too. All right, but partners are always going to take longer, in my book, because there's no replacement for long periods of time, like your siblings or your, someone that you've known for a long time. But there's something to that, right? You love the way your girlfriend cooks for you. You love that she's there for you when you're sick. But you hate a couple things, right? You just nodded your head, so you know what I mean. So I'm saying that even with the greatest relationship or whatever, there's still some parts of that person you don't like. And so when someone says I'm not boyfriend material or you're not boyfriend material, what part of me? Like what? Because I don't make a lot of money, or because I don't cook well, or because, you know what I mean? Where is that coming from, and how many people told you that? And is it an opinion you respect? That's where it comes from.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Like, do I respect this person, and how much weight am I giving, their
Well, I've
opinion?
always used this example. I read it in a book years back, and the lady, I don't know the author, she was like a journalist. Anyhow, she was saying that this counselor that she had went to, she was complaining about, her husband or her boyfriend was, being verbally abusive and calling her names. And the counselor was like, well, you're a chair. And she's like, what? What do you mean you're a chair? And she's like, you're a chair. Or the counselor was a guy. And she's like, and he's like, see how you react when things aren't true? So if this guy's saying those bad things about you, labeling you,
right,
why are you believing them to be true when I just called you a chair and you know that's not true? I think that's one of those things you read in a book, and I never forgot that. I thought, what a simplistic way to put it.
Right.
It's like you're just giving it weight and definition by saying, they called me this, they called me that, they called me this, they called me that. It's like if the term narcissist goes around everywhere, right? If someone called me that, I'd laugh. I'd say I probably have some narcissistic tendencies.
That's exactly what a narcissist would do right there.
yeah, nice. I mean, I wouldn't put weight on it. I wouldn't feel like I had to defend myself.
Right.
It's like if someone says, "Hey, isn't your name Matt? Isn't your name?" No, my name's Mac. It's like I wouldn't settle for calling me Matt 15 times, which I've had people do. Right? So that's part of it. It's like if someone labels you not being a certain thing, it's just one person. It's like, do I even respect their opinion? And have I heard this many times? Now, if I had 15 people tell me I was a narcissist, and they were friends, family, and colleagues, then I might have to look at that.
They're people you actually...
Maybe I had 5. Yeah, like people that I was close to. They're like, man, you're selfish. If I had that come up a lot, then I'd have to look at it. I'd have to go, wait a minute. This is a good way to gauge things in your life if you're old enough. If someone says something negative to you, have you heard it before a few times? It's like someone goes, one of your best friends is like, you're fucking cheap. And you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And you go back home, you review your day, and you're like, how many friends, family, and colleagues have called me cheap before? And if you go, actually a lot, you're probably fucking cheap. What's next?
So do you believe in meeting the right woman or man, but just in the wrong time?
Absolutely. Timing and circumstances is big, and the reality is, but here's the thing. You can meet the wrong person at the wrong time and end up with them. On the flip side, when you look back and you're like, oh, if I would have met that person at a different time, you don't know what would have happened next. That's the problem. So people go, oh, it would have been, we would have got married. We'd had 2 kids. That was the woman to marry for me. Now I look back, it was bad timing. That person could have became a crack addict. They could have became a gangster. They could, you know what I mean? There's so many things. People come into good fortune, right? They have an inheritance, they win the lotto, and they end up on drugs. So you never know what the next step is, and that's the problem. People always do this thing where they go,
oh, it could have been so great,
Yeah, sure. There's a couple women from my past where I'm like, damn, if that was a different time, or that we had a window open at that time, and it's like, who knows what would have happened? You just assume that it would have been rose petals and wine glasses and fucking, oh my God, stagecoaches. I had a client like that, like he reconnected with his ex and he was like, I got a stagecoach. I go for the dinner. Yeah, I got a stagecoach. I'm like, excuse me? With horses and everything? I was like, I had this like flashback of like a Budweiser commercial with the Clydesdales, are they called?
Yeah. Those big horses.
I was like, did you already set that up? I was like, don't get horses for the first date when you guys come back together.
So my ex still has sex tapes from their past relationship or relationships. Is this a red flag?
I mean, I wouldn't like to know that personally. I think it's personally based on you and what you accept or don't accept. Don't accept it because someone else told you it was cool to do. Oh, like I wouldn't care. Everyone's different about that. Are they going to watch them in front of you? What are they doing with them? And who the hell still has tapes? But the idea that I say to myself, well, that's cool, and I'm your best friend, and you're like deep down in the pit of your stomach, you're hurt by it and it upsets you, be true to you. Don't accuse them of playing on you or lying to you. If they came to you and told you the truth about it, and they didn't try to hide it, well, then they're saying like, this is something I like. But does it bother you? And if it bothers you, why? And then tell them. But if it doesn't and you're okay with it, fine. If you think that that's like, all right, that's great, like they can use that when I'm not around or something like that, fine. Me personally, I've never had to deal with that before. With a girlfriend having sex tapes or a boyfriend. Would you be okay with that, B?
I mean, no, like if I knew that they had them, like no, but I don't know if they just kept them on like a private, thing, like a private folder or whatever.
I think what you're saying is like, if you knew, you wouldn't demand them be deleted in front of you.
No, I don't think so. But I don't know, it's weird because it's never happened to me. So
what if they wanted to show you them?
That would be a little weird. To me, that's a little weird. That's a little
I would say that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I would say that I don't want to see them.
I don't want to see that shit, no.
And that being said, if they're still watching them, maybe maybe she's a freak and that's kind of your guys' game.
What if you were like with somebody for like 10 years? That's a lot of stuff, right, that you probably have left over from that relationship and sex tapes or, whatever. And you just don't want to get rid of a lot of that stuff from your, 10-year-long relationship. Is it
and you're in a new relationship?
You're in a new relationship. Is it wrong to keep all that stuff and like, have it in a, secret folder or something, like not that's, easily accessible to this person?
I don't think everyone has their own morals and values, so you need to create your own. And the main thing is if your current girlfriend finds out and you never said anything, there could be some real problems there. And then you're going to be like, well, why'd you keep them, all this other stuff. But the idea that like I said, everyone accepts that different because someone will be like, oh, let's watch them together.
Can you have pictures and stuff? Like how far is it?
Then? I mean, some people shock me what they're into. Right. What I've learned, and I'm thankful for it, up to you. Like if you're not hurting other people, but you need to instead of deciding what other, because this isn't saying like everyone and their brother's going to know about this. Yeah. I would say that that's kind of a risk, right? Because when we're saying sex tapes, we're talking about stuff that's probably on a phone.
Yeah. Or a computer. I mean, phone or computer, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that can easily be shared with a lot of people. So I would say that that's kind of one of those things. You don't want to, your girl's getting goosed on the on a video and it gets out on some kind of, your friends like hears about it or something like that would be kind of a big deal. But on the flip side, you decide what is okay in your thing. But like also to that topic, right? I mean, what's going on too, right? It's like she having a threesome or something, It's like there's all kinds of questions there's all kinds of specifics there. But I would say that you have to be. There's plenty of guys that be like, I don't care. I know that guy's not around anymore. I know my girl's a freak. All right, well that's a way to look at it. But I would say a lot of people in that situation probably wouldn't tell.
Right.
They would probably keep it on their phone. I have had clients, to shed some light on this, that have had stuff like that, and they kept it, and then when they were in a breakup, they said it would crush them to look at because
they had all this stuff.
It would make them sad. Well, you know why it makes them sad is because when you're lonely and you're wanting intimacy,
it just brings back all these.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, that was so good, and you haven't had,
and now it's not here. And
water in the desert. Right. You're at your lowest point. You're wanting intimacy, and you take a sneak peek at 2 years ago when
things were good, and
you guys were making a premium video. I would just say that, like I said, it's got to be. If it's a problem for you, don't act like it's cool. Don't be like, oh yeah, no, that's cool, man. Like, I don't mind. If it's a problem, like this is one thing that you can go around and you can go on YouTube. You can ask me. It's like, what bothers you? Not that the other person's a bad person. But it's like, no, that's a no for me. All right, but you might ask me, and I'm like, you know what? I'd have to see the tape. Right. That being said, if it was my girlfriend that I was with for 2-3 years and she had something like this, I'd be like, I'd absolutely not want to see the tape. I wouldn't want to see that.
Well, would you demand that it needs to be deleted or anything like that, or would you have to have just a discussion about it?
I would, if I never saw it, I wouldn't demand to get it deleted. And I just can't picture a girlfriend telling me that. Because I think if they did do that, they probably wouldn't want to. Women are more deceitful like that. They usually don't share stuff like that.
Just right off the bat, or come out with it? No. Unless,
like I said, you guys are swingers, or that's your. Like I do know a friend of mine that was dating a porn star. Or when I say porn star, I don't know what level's a star. I didn't see her work.
She was in that industry, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and he said she was just fantastic. Fantastic intimacy. And, would do things anywhere, everywhere, all kinds of stuff like that. And they didn't have a official relationship, but they saw each other pretty regularly. And guess what? I think she was married. And so that's someone that he just accepted that she had like public films, right? So when I think about it that way, I think the earlier you know, probably the better. But that being said, if it was her job, and again, for some reason he never made it official. It wasn't like, this is my girlfriend, but he'd tell you the stories, the nitty gritty stories, like, oh man, right. And you're like, I don't know. Is there any more questions on there?
Yeah, let's see. We got a couple more, I think. I'm in my mid-40s and I've never been in a serious relationship. Is that a major turnoff for women?
Some probably. I wouldn't tell them on the first date. That's for damn sure. You have to just come to the realization, why am I not in a serious relationship in my mid-40s? So the question comes back on you. It's not necessarily about what they're accepting. It's why haven't you jumped in the game? You got some kind of limited belief, something happened, you had your heart broken.
Could be religious, right? Like there's a lot
could be religious, but like don't go out on dates. Oh, I've never been in a relationship. What do you think about that? It's like, whoa, okay. Why are you telling me this? what do you think the problem is personally? Because you probably know better than they do. They might just assume that. But there's women out there that would think it was kind of neat.
That like you're the first one.
They can train you. Maybe. But I would have to ask you, like, why has that been the case for you, and what do you think's the problem with it?
And do you have a problem with it? Do you actually have a problem? Is it something that you think?
I mean, even myself being in my early 40s now, like, if there was a woman I was dating, and she was over 30, and she was like, "I've never been in a relationship before," I'd be like,
What's going on there?
I wouldn't be like, "Oh no, I'm never gonna date you." I'd think, why not? I'd just ask the question. So what happened? What was the story?
But it's not a turn off. Maybe for some, I don't know. Maybe for some.
Well, I mean, it's, on the flip side, it's like, what if she's like, "No, I've never been in a serious relationship, but I've hooked up with a lot of guys."
That might be a red flag. That might be a red flag.
Like this guy that's 43, he's like, "No, I've never been in a relationship, but I've
hooked up with quite a few."
Yeah. So it depends on the circumstances.
Right. So I've been having a difficult time trying to romantically connect with women. What's your advice? So I guess they can get out on dates, but they just
you probably just have a limited belief. You just have something that's a roadblock from when you were a child. Won't go into that, but you know what I mean. Something happened, maybe. A parent did something or said something to you about that being a naughty thing to do. And those things definitely happen. It's not something to be ashamed of, but it's not necessarily just, this is just a problem I have. There's something that was built there, and you could probably chop that tree down. So knowing that it's a problem is the first step, and then realizing, like, let me go to a therapist or a coach like myself, and or hypnotherapy. We can go into your, ask you some questions, go into your past and go, all right, and figure out where it came from, because there's some kind of limited belief. Right? It's like the birthday thing. There's something wrong there, right? It's like
something.
There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Like people that are scared of spiders, they weren't born that way. Think about people that are. I think there's an innate thing to be scared of snakes in human beings.
Well, the spiders thing is interesting because I really don't like spiders, with like a lot of people. But I remember being really terrified of a movie I saw when I was young.
That's my point.
Do you know Arachnophobia?
Yeah, John Goodman.
That movie freaked me out when I was young, and I think that shaped me for sure.
You shouldn't watch movies.
You shouldn't watch it like that when you're young. And I happened to come across it with some friends, and I was freaked out.
I remember as a young kid watching in a true story about a kid being abducted.
Oh, okay.
And I was under 10, and I remember that was a scary movie to me, because this kid got kidnapped at 7 years old, and
around the same age.
Yeah, and the guy kept him in confinement for 7 years. It was like,
you should not be watching.
No way, man.
Wow.
We have some big spiders here, but you can.
Oh yeah. You
can look back to some situation and you're like, that's why I'm really scared or something. And it could just be that your mom or your dad said, stay away from that. And so that's related to intimacy sometimes too. So if you can't make a move, but deep down inside you want to, there's something to that that's more than just, I'm scared to get rejected usually.
It's holding you back a little bit.
And you can find out what that is. You can find out what it is.
You just have to unpack it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get to the bottom of it. Just like the simple questions. When was the first time you had this problem? Or what do you think it is? She said, I'm scared of bees. I guarantee Ryflint says, I'm scared of bees. Ha ha. I guarantee that she probably got stung when she was really young, or she might have watched the movie My Girl.
Oh, yeah. That's
with
right.
Macaulay Culkin. Remember that movie?
Yep.
That's a possibility where he dies of.
Very traumatic.
Your face just dropped because you know that movie.
He died from.
That was a good movie, actually. That was a really good movie. For a heartfelt comedy. I don't, they don't make good movies like that anymore. That had a storyline, man.
I forgot that was Macaulay, right? Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah. And that wasn't, I was just saying that, yeah, and he died of bee stings.
That's a pretty traumatic,
in the movie.
In the movie, yeah.
Because some people are, I did on the face. See, I'm scared of bees. So When you realize that, when you do like hypnotherapy, I can just take you. There was a client of mine came to me for breakups, and we did some deeper work, and we went and took him back to his kindergarten first class when he was crying hysterically, and he was saying his mom abandoned him. Went back in there and just cleaned up that moment. It was like a lucid dream. He went back there and told himself he's okay and let it go. Not even let it go, just reframe the whole situation. It's like, look at the bee sting. You get bee stung on your face. If some adult was there and they were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and they got all crazy and they got scared and they're traumatized, that'll just add to it. If some adult was there and was like, hey, and it's someone that you respected, a doctor or something, they're like, you're okay. You're okay. Actually, getting stung by a bee gives you special power. Like if they said something like, made up some story, this is why we have Disney stories, folks. Watching scary TV shows, like I remember watching documentaries about drugs and opiate addiction as a kid. God, when I was a kid, opiate addiction wasn't a problem yet, as far as I knew. I'm sure it's always been a problem, though.
Well, just the heroin. That's what we had. I mean,
black tar heroin.
Yeah, black tar stuff like that.
Sabina really says never did drugs. Good for you.
See, you were scared by watching that documentary.
Good for you. Absolutely fantastic. Is there any more questions, or that all of them?
That was it.
It's a good little lineup. Anyone else have some questions out there? Some quick ones, some quick hitters? Join Fight Against It. Good for you, Sabina. I'm proud of you, hon.
That's really going hard in the States right now.
What?
The opiate.
Oh, that's been, man.
I mean, yeah, for the last probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years.
What was crazy, is Xanax an opiate?
No.
What is it?
I think it's a benzo. So
what does that mean?
The benzo, it affects. It's not an opiate. It affects you differently. I don't know if it affects serotonin, or I don't know exactly what it's doing, but it's different.
Yeah, someone was just on a live stream
it's highly addictive though.
Yeah, they were just interviewing Post Malone, and they were talking about.
Oh yeah,
they were talking about anxiety, and he was saying how many problems he has with anxiety as he's smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol.
I think Jordan Peterson had a huge problem with it. Like I think he was. Really
but he was on a very strong one.
Who Peterson?
Yeah, I forgot which kind it was. It was one I never heard of before.
Like Klong, something like that.
It was a strong one. But his wife also had terminal cancer.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on in his life. I mean, at that time.
Just ironic that people that are giving advice end up in that end up in the other seat, and everyone goes, ha, look, this person's fake. I don't believe that. I think that anyone's capable of falling. I felt bad when I heard about that with him. I was like, obviously he's admitted and it made it public, and he said why it happened, and it was really hard, but it's no means to sit there and go he's a charlatan or not real. He had a circumstance, and he said, like, my wife was facing death for 7 months or something. So I don't look at it that way.
But he said the come down, or trying to get off of it, was crazy hard.
Well, there was just on Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, who you like also. He was just talking about how anything that has a high level of dopamine has a high level of come down, which makes sense. So, what was interesting is he said, like, I never thought of this before. Like, when I exercise, I often say I do it for the feeling,
or like you get a runner's high. A lot of people say
runner's high, or yoga, which I do, or gym or something like that. But he was saying, like, if you drink a coffee with it, or you have an energy drink on top of it, so you stack
You're adding onto it.
You stack your dopamine stimulants.
Right.
He's like, then the come down will be really high. I never thought of that before. Sometimes when I do like a morning class or something, I'll have a coffee in the morning before, and I'll wonder, like, in the afternoon, I'm kind of in a bad mood. And I was like, I never thought of that before, because
you're so high up.
You got a bigger high.
Right.
Kind of makes you wonder about hangovers, right? Because you're drinking to get higher and higher and higher, but you're just borrowing time. I've never been someone that could drink too many coffees. I can't drink 3 or 4 coffees in a day.
I think 2 or 3 is probably my limit.
2's my max.
Yeah, that's best.
Yeah, no, I couldn't drink more than that. The people that can drink, like a lot of coffee.
I've heard crazy stories, like people going 15 plus coffees, like crazy amounts.
Well, when you mix the sugar too, if you get a sugar type, you know, I don't know, those
you're adding into that whole
caramel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like from Starbucks or whatever.
No way.
They are good though. They are addictive, for sure.
All right, this has been good. It's been grand. I want you guys to feel free to send in some more questions if you like, if you want some topics on that. And one coffee and I'm done. Hands shaking. Depends on who's making the coffee. A lot of times. Well, it's good to get a little Laffy Quince in here. Laffy Quince.
Laffy still here?
Rye Flint, being an Australian woman, what do you think's the biggest issue being are you single? Single Australian woman? What's going on with Australia and dating these days? Have you been to Australia, B?
No, I have not.
Is it on your list or no?
Yeah, definitely. Well, golf, I want to golf there, so.
Is there good golf courses there?
There's a lot of great golf courses, yes.
Is it top 5?
There's some top level golf courses all over. So I mean,
all over Australia.
Yeah, like the Gold Coast has. There's just a ton. So I would love to go.
The Gold Coast is in South Africa, isn't it? Oh, that's the Ivory Coast. Would you go to South Africa for golf?
Yeah, there's some really great golf there too.
Losing interest in dating, Rye Flint? Maybe we can get you on a live call and you can talk to us about dating in Australia and your past relationships. Do you want to do that? We'll get a live call right now. We'll get you on. I have to get back to that. I told you, get back to some live calls. That was fun a couple years ago.
I think that would be good. That would be fun to get some people on. See, Sabina says, yeah.
We can talk to Sabina about her fight against drugs.
No, she didn't have a fight, right? She stayed away. It was that documentary when she was young.
Yeah, I got to bring back some people, I think.
Would you just have random people that would show up, come on?
No,
or
it's good to talk about it's good to talk about your relationships. No, people would call in they'd want to talk about their breakup.
But people that just showed up on the live stream or whatever.
Right now it's world fight. Right now it's not as many people because a lot of the people come on, this is Sabina's in Austria, Rye Flint's in Australia. Percy Blue's up late, man. Real late. Yeah, sure. Go easy on me, though.
Of course.
Drugs and AIDS fight. Joined World Organization. Well, good for you, Sabina. Those are two big ones.
Yeah.
That's some legacy on you. Well, I mean, would you, if we interviewed you about your past relationships, would you want to be on video or would you want voice over only? Quick question. And how long has it been since your last breakup? Tell the truth, please.
Tell the truth.
It's sad how people can't use condoms to stop STDs. Wow. Well, you know what's interesting about that? I've said this before. Have you ever seen a sex scene in a movie where they stop and put a condom on?
No, like
maybe once or twice.
No, usually it's just no.
You ever think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You just thought about it kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Think about that. Like you never see in a movie where someone's like, hold on. And goes through the like rib. Yeah.
Unless it's like knocked up or something where that was kind of
exactly. There's only like so it's kind of funny,
12 months ago, she says.
12 months, and I believe if I'm correct, you said you're 31. Melbourne. If you're from Melbourne, that's a pretty major city that should have a lot of candidates from what I hear. That's like a top 10 city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making that up, but I've heard good things about Melbourne. 12 months. So we wouldn't call it 1 year.
12.
Is it 12 and a half months? So you couldn't say a year and 2 weeks? Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Okay. All right. What do you think what do you think would be useful to talk about? What happened in the breakup? Was it a bad breakup? Did you send your story in to me before, Rye? I don't remember.
I stopped counting.
12 months is, you should be healed by now.
It's a good amount of time.
Depends on the wreckage on the road.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's true. That's true.
You know what people, you know what's a tough one that I don't talk about a lot is someone will break up and then maybe in the first 3 or 4 months they'll meet someone else and it'll be really good and that ends up bad and that's really harsh.
Because they're like, oh, this is the...
Well, yeah,
this is
you
the
were
new
just in a
one.
5 year, 6 year, 7 year relationship and then you meet someone and you're like, wow, this is, rose petals and wine glasses. This is fucking, the best sex I've ever had. This is great. And then some kind of train wreck happens. You're like, whoa, did I?
I could have done this
Those
forever.
are the worst breakups because the person's like, they were so great.
Right.
And they were totally different than my ex and they didn't really want a long-term relationship. Those are hard.
You think you start thinking about your ex then? Your previous ex?
It depends on the relationship. It just hurts that person more because they are in a new relationship that they thought was better.
It'll work out, right. Yeah.
And then because they didn't know that person, they went into a new relationship that was maybe needed to be taken a little bit more lighter. But being that they've been in like a long-term relationship, they just went into the new relationship with those kind of expectations.
It's a rebound, right? A rebound relationship, right? So
I guess it could be called that. Yeah. Most people need two years or more or less to heal.
Yeah, depending on your situation, how bad it was.
Yeah.
I could see it being 2 years.
All right, when do you want to do the call, Rye Flint? Do you want to email me?
Yeah, we could set it up.
Here, you can email me direct. This will be fun. There you go. There's the email. Email me direct, and then maybe we'll get something set up this week. And we'll ask you. I'll send you the questions prior to, so we don't ambush you with some bad stuff. I wouldn't do that anyways.
No.
If I ask someone a question that's like, I don't want to. It's like, just say you don't want to talk about it. It's fine. It's not Howard Stern. That guy was a digger, man.
Oh yeah.
He was ruthless, man, with people.
I remember being in high school, like driving to school every morning, listening, catching it.
That was when he was big.
Just being like, oh, he was pretty ruthless.
He's pretty brutal. You know what's ironic about that is he would, looking back, he was pretty brutal on people that were
easy targets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Easy targets.
Yeah.
I was looking for the words. And I would say that he was probably an easy target when he was young. So it's kind of interesting how harsh he was on some of these people.
Yeah. But he did it for the content.
It was funny.
It was funny. People liked it.
It was funny, but he sacrificed some lambs.
Oh yeah, he did. I wonder. I mean, I didn't go too much into his story, but I'm sure he probably hooked up a lot of those people, right? Like he had to have.
I would hope so.
Right? You would think. I
would hope so. I mean, I think like anything else, those kinds of characters, they get really big, and he got big, and he, bulletproof. Like I'm bigger than all these people. It's like just watching American football yesterday. One of my favorite players, like I seen him after the game, and not in person, but on the podium, and I was like, God, this guy, like he was going third person on his name.
Oh, doing that. Okay.
He was you know when someone goes third person? Yeah, Mac does this. Mac does like. Have you ever done third person?
Fuck no, I've never done refer
Do you know
to
what it is?
myself.
Yeah.
No, never.
That you want to talk about a narcissistic maybe red flag? That might be one of them. And he was going third person, and then he had a gold medallion that was probably bigger than my head. I was like, and he wasn't like this like a year ago. He's an outstanding player.
I think we need to get you a gold medallion.
I think so too. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a couple earrings for the first time. Never had an earring and never had a tattoo.
I never did the earring.
No tattoos and no earrings. But time will tell. We'll see.
Yeah, there's still time.
All right, we got an hour in today. That was good. Feel free to send your story into writemac.com. We had 5 on deck. Rye, feel free to email me about that. Maybe we can set something up. Sabina, keep the world fight up. You are appreciated. Percy, if you're still on deck, thanks, bud. Good to hear from you. Laffy Quince, always a pleasure. Justin Brown, hang in there, buddy. Stay strong.